Hello, welcome back to Street News Network. Like always, I appreciate you all for coming here. In today's video, Kamala Harris just gave one of her most personal interviews yet, reflecting on her loss and her regrets about Joe Biden and her view on Donald Trump. She calls her book 107 Days that shows her side of the election events, but what this really shows is how divided and uncertain the Democrat Party has become. Let's break down what she said, what she avoided, and what it tells us about America's political future moving forward.
How consequential was it for America, for American democracy, that President Biden made the decision to run for a second term?
I think that there was an impact. I write in the book in many different ways. We needed more time. And had we more time, perhaps the outcome would have been different. And that is a fact. I think it's an undeniable fact.
You say in the book that it was reckless for you not to intervene on that decision to run again, given the stakes. How could you leave the decision to Joe Biden and Joe Biden?
As I write, and this book really is about it's candid. I offer a lot of candor around what I did and what I believe I could have done and should have done differently, and what was at play overall. And so as I write, I reflect on not talking him out of running and why I didn't. And I ask myself, was it grace or was it recklessness on my part? And I think it was reckless.
You were one of the people in the room.
And there were many, obviously, who were.
Of course, we understand that.
And I say, but
The thing that kind of bothers me about this, she says it was reckless on her part not to warn him, or to stop him from running. But then in the same breath or the next couple sentences, she'll say something like, "Oh, he was perfectly fine, and I do think he could have ran." I think they're trying to save themselves so they don't look like they have anything to blame. But if Donald Trump was such a threat to democracy, why would you allow anything reckless if you thought the American way was going to die? Why would you be reckless with that? And why wouldn't they come out and have taken a stronger stance that they needed to look around and see if there's any other candidates that could get the job done? And that should have been including herself. She says, "Oh, I only had 107 days." It's like, no, you had 4 years. You guys had 4 years to figure out and make a plan. And they didn't do that. That begs the question, why?
I go on to say that part of the reason I didn't is I don't believe in having a conversation for the sake of getting something off my chest.
Sure.
It's about making it productive.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed that were I to raise it with the president, it would have appeared to be so completely self-serving that it would have been counterproductive.
And yet you now call it reckless.
I think, in respect, it was a conversation I should have raised, even if it were ill-received.
Didn't you also have a responsibility? You were one of the people in the room. You saw, notwithstanding that you said that he was able to execute his job, but you knew he was asking for 4 more years. Didn't you have a responsibility as an American to step up and say something at that point?
I believe she did have a responsibility, and to put it off as trying not to be selfish or put one's needs, it was the country. You were second in charge of leading the country. And if you felt it was in any way reckless for him to run again, you should at least have a conversation with him. But better yet, you're second in charge of the country. You should have spoke out. And on the campaign trail, she didn't speak out at all. She didn't make a difference between her and Joe Biden and what she wanted to do in her plan. I think she had the most responsibility out of everyone in that party. Out of every single person, I felt like she has the most responsibility to speak out if she felt the president running was reckless. But instead, they went on camera and they act like everything was fine. His mental health was completely fine. Or not even just his mental health, just his health in general. They were saying he's fine. The Republicans are lying. And then all of a sudden they lose the election and people are coming out with books calling this reckless, saying they saw him do this and that. And it's just far a little too late to where you're just going to blindly follow the party and then lose. And then now all of a sudden you guys are turning on each other. We're having a civil war between one party and they're letting that come out and affect things in policy like in Congress today. You can't say that if this party was going to be in power that they still wouldn't be infighting with each other. Or would they just be so happy that they got Donald Trump out? But it's now time for them to find a new way, and we see how fractured the party is right now.
I did not question Joe Biden's capacity to be president at all.
For 4 more years?
I did not question his capacity. I saw him in the Oval Office, in the Situation Room, meeting with world leaders on a daily basis. And I did not have any question about that. My concern...
Even up to 2028?
Correct. My concern... Well, I mean, I can speak for up until 2024. And
But I guess what I'm asking is, you saw how he was. You saw some of the deficits notwithstanding.
My concern was whether he had... running for president of the United States in a nation of 330 million people is an...
I hope she kind of breaks down her concern here. I just wanted to pause it. It's just, if it was reckless, why? Like, she just said it was reckless for him to run again and I should have spoke up. Spoken up about what? Because she's asking you a direct question. Would he have been fine till 2028? And you're calling it reckless. So now we need to figure out in between the middle of that, like, okay, what exactly was reckless? What were her concerns? I hope she breaks that down.
Extraordinary feat about energy and endurance, and especially talking about running against the person who's now in the White House, and doing it with the heavy responsibility of being the sitting president. And that was my concern about whether, I talk about running for president. Some people say, oh, it's a marathon. No, I would call it a marathon running at a sprinter's pace with tomatoes, I'm in England, tomatoes being thrown at you every step you take.
But wasn't Joe Biden, then, to put it on him, wasn't his refusal to recognize his own frailties the reason that you faced a nearly impossible task?
She's telling us the truth without outright saying it. Like, let's just be real here. She did not believe that he was going to be able to keep up on the campaign trail. And in my opinion, if you can't keep up on the campaign trail, then how are you going to keep up as president? They hit him. Barely did any interviews, even herself. The first month, all they did was tweet, and then all of a sudden, it takes her a whole month after saying she's going to run for president to come out and give an interview. And she didn't even do it by herself. She needed Tim Walz by her side. She couldn't come out as her own like she's been doing now to promote her book. It's funny how she's doing more interviews and talking to more people to promote her book about their failure than she did to come out and warn the country about what's going on in the Democratic Party and how they needed to come together and find a new leader. Remember that. She can come out for book tour. She didn't come out and warn just the Democrats like, hey, I don't think he's going to be able to do this. So are you really not selfish? Because when you're going out giving interviews for your own gain now, but when it was time for the country to benefit or just have a broader conversation, you didn't come out because you didn't want to be selfish. Which act here looks selfish?
I ran against Donald Trump for president, and Donald Trump ran on a platform that was in large part, I believe, misrepresenting his intentions to the American people I do believe that there are a fair number of people that voted for Donald Trump who believed him when he told them that his first priority on day one is going to be to bring down prices. And he didn't. And you combine that misrepresentation of intention with also what was at play in terms of massive amounts of mis and disinformation.
Now, forgive me.
And a
I want to
truncated calendar in terms of
yes.
the clock.
I want to interrupt you because
yeah.
that is a world-class pivot, but it is not the question that I asked you,
It's not.
which is about Joe Biden's failure to recognize his own frailties and what that did to you. The question is about Joe Biden. Are you still reluctant to criticize the former president?
In what regard, please?
Well, just in terms of that question. So you went
What
on.
exactly would you like to ask? Be more specific, if you don't mind.
Was it Joe Biden's decision, his failure to recognize his own frailties in that position, that put you in the position that made it almost impossible to win that race?
He was not frail as president of the United States.
But he had frailties. We all saw the debate.
I do believe that Joe Biden had the capacity to be president of the United States, and I have never doubted that he had the capacity to be president of the United States.
Then what made it so reckless that you needed to come out and write a book about it? Like, you can't claim that it was reckless and then say that he had the capacity at the same time. What does that mean? It's like the numbers, Mason. What do they mean? She's like what does that mean? Come on, Kamala. This is why you didn't win. When it was time for you to separate yourself, you couldn't do it. It's just sad. And people expect her to come out and run again in 2028. Please, Lord, if they want to have a landslide again, it's going to get worse for them. Oh, my goodness.
States. If you want to talk about whether he had the ability to endure what a race for president of the United States would require in that political environment in 2024, as I've said in the book, I had concerns.
I'm just wondering, is there a reason why you won't go to that prolonged frailty question? Well, we saw the debate. We saw the difficulty he had marshalling his thoughts.
I have answered that question. I do not believe that
I think it's just hard watching the debate to see how there could not be a problem long term with someone who can't marshal their thoughts. I'm not saying his acuity wasn't present.
I talked about that in the book. And I also mentioned the context in which that debate occurred. And you'll probably remember how I talked about that in terms of what his travel schedule had been, that what he had been enduring in terms of the timing of that debate. I talk about it extensively in the book. I'm not shying away from that. That's why I wrote it in the book, because I do know it's a question people had.
I want to go to another question about him.
I'm going to end it there. If you guys want to see the whole interview, click the link in the description. But for me it just kind of comes down to like nothing changes if nothing changes. Like they're sitting around preaching about how they want all this change, and they're just sitting around waiting for things to change and not doing anything. So just take at least the one advice that if you want change, you need to change something. You can't keep on with the same message that everything was okay, it's all Donald Trump's fault, and we're just trying to save the country. No, that's why they lost. But with that, no matter where you stand politically, Kamala Harris's interview honestly raises questions because she can't answer a question straight. You see how she called her a world-class pivot, and it's going to question, and to me, it questions her leadership ability and her accountability and the future of the Democratic Party, because people still think would have been the best president, but I don't think so. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and I'll see you guys in another episode of Street News Network. Thank you very much.